Hey everybody, welcome to the Ronline Report. Today's guest I haven't talked to in a while. It's time to catch up with the man originally from the great state of Michigan, now living in the great state of Texas, Steve,
right.
the King Snake, Kuclo. How are you, Steve?
I love it, Ron. It's great to see that old shirt. Great to be on your program yet again, man. Always an honor, man. Excited.
So we'll start off with some Texas news before we get into King Snake news.
Yeah.
Were you affected at all by that crazy cold snap and the storms and the power outages a couple weeks back?
Man, we actually were very fortunate. We weren't. I mean, literally like 2 blocks over from where I live, one of my close friends had no power for probably 3 or 4 days. A lot of people's, like, if you have pools here in Texas, we have a pool. It runs during freezing, so it doesn't freeze up the equipment, and that equipment's very expensive. And I know a lot of my friends lost a lot of their pool equipment. They're going to have to replace. I mean, people were without hot water. Their hot water tanks were freezing up. There were pipes busting. We never lost power. I guess we're on a main grid where it didn't they couldn't shut it off because it would have caused too many problems. So very fortunate, very blessed to not have any issues there. But I mean, it created a panic. People were out. The grocery stores were out of food. Gas stations were running out of gas. Everything shut down for pretty much a week. We're in the middle of remodeling our house and our kitchen, and no work was being done. But I mean, thank God we had at least a fridge and a microwave to kind of get by with some stuff. And I'm always prepared. So I'm one of those guys that rather be prepared than not.
Well, if there was no food, you probably have, 40 jugs of all max protein powder.
True.
Just in case.
I think in white rice and protein powder, I could probably last a year.
Yeah, if you follow the zombie apocalypse TV shows, that wouldn't be a bad thing.
Yeah, but that's kind of what I do.
So you grew up in Michigan. That type of weather is no big deal for you, I'm sure. Anywhere on the Great Lakes, it's crazy cold and windy all. But was this the first time you've been in Texas for about 10 years now? I want to say
15.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is this the worst winter weather you've ever seen there?
Oh, absolutely. And we usually once in a while, I'd say once every 5 years, get a pretty good little snowstorm or get some cold weather where it kind of gets in the 20s. And now 20s in Texas, it's freezing, it's crazy. But it was -2 to 0 degrees for a couple of days. And things just aren't made here for that. Like, they don't treat the gas here with anti-freezing chemicals. The plants here aren't made for. I mean, we lost a lot of our outdoor plants and trees because it just got so cold. They're not made for the hard freeze. So sometimes it's good to reset some of the nature stuff, get rid of some bugs. So when it has a hard freeze, you get rid of some mosquitoes and whatnot. But so that's the positive side we're trying to take from this.
Yeah. I remember talking to Branch. There was a storm, I don't know how long ago, it was like 10 years. At one point, there was a snowstorm in Texas, and the whole state was crippled because I think he said in the whole state of Texas, there were like less than 100 snowplows in the whole state.
I don't think there's any, honestly. I think they have salt and snow trucks, sand trucks. They put like a mixture down on the roads, which helps. But when it gets so cold, there's nothing that's going to work to unfreeze ice and except some sunlight and heat.
What did you think about your Senator Ted Cruz effing off to Cancun with his family in the middle of all that?
I don't blame him, to be honest. I mean, shit, I wish I was on a plane with him, but he could have went private maybe and avoided a lot of that conflict. But, what's he going to do? I mean, when it's that kind of stuff going on, it gave something for people to bitch about.
Okay. So one last Texas item, because I just saw this in the news. Your governor, Greg Abbott, he just lifted the mask ban or the mask mandate. So you don't have to wear a mask, and all businesses are open 100% now. Is that correct?
Yes, finally. I mean, as we all know, man, it was time to open up the country. I think it just became so politicized. This mask mandate. I didn't believe in masks. I never wore a mask unless absolutely mandated to on an airplane or something. So I didn't get kicked off. But I think the science showed that it didn't work. So hey. At this point, I think if they keep states locked down, they keep people locked in their homes, all that kind of stuff, there's going to be a lot further repercussions of businesses being, I don't see a lot of businesses ever recovering from this if they don't lift these restrictions. And I'm glad to see Governor Abbott and a few other governors of other states really step up and show, let freedom reign. I mean, let people choose and decide what, if you want to stay home and wear a mask all the time, you can do that. It doesn't say you can't, but it's saying people that don't want to live their life, open their business and pursue, the American dream. Let's rock and roll.
Yeah, right on. I mean, I wish our governor here in Massachusetts, there's no way it's going to happen for a long.
Yeah.
He'd love to keep us locked up for another 1,000 years, I'm sure.
Crazy. I feel bad for you guys.
But I mean, this is a good sign. If usually if one state does
It
it,
starts right.
it's a domino effect. So we're hoping. I assume it's going to be along, party lines, Republican, Democrat, but whatever.
Right.
I never really asked you about your shows last year because all promoters were in a jam last year with this situation. You put on two Steve Kuclo classics every year.
Yeah, three. Actually, three. Well, last year we had three, so we haven't set our third date yet for this year, but it's coming up. But yeah, we still had the shows. It was, one of the things I wanted to at least have for the competitors was say, hey, no matter what, we're going to have the show. I know everybody's been prepping and wanting to do shows. So some got pushed back later in the year. So it just, you had to make some adjustments and pivot. But for us, we still had it. Even the Michigan show we had last year was our first year we had it. We actually had it outside under a tent, which never did I ever think a bodybuilding show other than maybe Muscle Beach was going to be outside. Yeah. But we ended up having it. It was a success. People were very happy and appreciative that we had it. And to me, that went a long way. It wasn't about making a bunch of money and having the biggest show ever. It really was just about putting a show on the map and doing it for the competitors.
Yeah, I mean, kudos to you and all the other promoters, because I don't think any contest promoters last year, I don't think they made a dime. I really don't.
Exactly. I don't think I made very much, enough to pay my staff that was helping. That was about it.
Yeah, so your shows this year, they're scheduled for May.
Yeah.
You got the Steve Kuclo Classic in Michigan.
Yeah.
You got another one May 29th. You say that's the big one in Dallas. So obviously the Dallas one, that can be business as usual, a regular
business
show.
As usual. Yeah. Excited to hear about that. Last year we were reduced to 50% occupancy within the show through the hotel that we have it at. And one of the things that I kind of decided to switch up the format, which really worked and competitors loved it, was we did a show just dedicated for the men in the morning. So we ran about 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. all men's show. So you literally would have prejudging and finals within about a 30-minute period and think about it as a competitor. I would love that. I know that we've done that overseas with some shows and, where we competed for, we did our prejudging and then maybe an hour later did the finals, and it felt great because you got all your stuff done. I think if you're not ready for prejudging, a few hours really ain't going to make a difference. And, majority of the judging to me is done in prejudging. Yeah. So we did the men's show, then we did the women's show in the afternoon. It gave time for women to get their makeup and hair done. They weren't up at 3 a.m. So we split it up into two shows and people really loved that format. And we were done by about 7 p.m., which was great. So we have, we're going to do the same format this year for at least the Dallas show and probably the one in Michigan. And it just ran really smooth. People loved it. And the guys were at lunchtime, they were done. I mean, by noon, they were off to eating a burger, taking their tan off and enjoying life again.
I mean, the only downside, that sounds awesome to me, because I think if you're there to watch the men's bodybuilding and you got to sit through all these other women's divisions, you're like, and I'm sure there's a ton of people that are only there to watch and support the bikini or the fitness. They barely have fitness. And they're probably sitting there through the bodybuilding men's physique class. Right. That's a great idea. We need to get the word out to other promoters.
Yeah. Right. Pulled out my little secret.
So they were done. The guys were all done by noon. They could go where they were done. Wow.
They were done. Yeah.
It would be kind of weird to walk out of a show. It's all over at like noon, but hey, you can't have everything.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. So now it's time to talk about Steve Kuclo, of course. Let's do it. So I believe the last time you were on stage was just about a year ago today in Columbus. Yeah. When all hell was breaking loose with this, we're hearing about this new coronavirus thing that might pose a problem. And, the expo was shut down. That was the weekend. Would you say that was the weekend for all of us where everything just it was what, maybe 2 days after the show. I mean, the world shut down, which was crazy to see, and I was fearful that the show wasn't, we heard a week before the expo is going to be canceled and the show might be canceled. Now you just prep for 12 weeks. You're getting ready to get on stage. You got all the,
your eggs in this basket. Arnold's a great payday, doing well. And you hear, okay, the plug's going to be pulled. So that created a whole new level of stress. We go into the competitor meeting Thursday and they give us the green light and say, okay, expo's not happening, show's happening. Then they had some crazy rule, nobody there for prejudging, but finals was wide open. I mean, how that kind of makes sense, and we're not going to get into that, but we end up having the show, and obviously the rest of the year kind of got just totally derailed with the way shows were being canceled or delayed. And to me, it was too much to try to think about doing a show and it being canceled or pushed back further. So I just said, let's ride 2020 out. 2021, we go into a new year, and hopefully like in Texas and other states, we start lifting restrictions and shows could resume as normal,
You were one of the ones smart enough. I shouldn't say smart. I don't want to make it seem like other people weren't smart, but you were going to do the show in Australia, the Arnold Classic Australia in Melbourne, which was going to be 1 week later, right?
Correct.
And it was already feeling like something might not happen. And, I remember talking to you the morning after, Sunday morning, before we were all leaving, and you were like, nah, I don't think I'm going to make it because I have my show. I need to be back here to put my show on. And your concern was, if I go to Australia, what if I can't get back? What if they quarantine the whole, and that's what happened. Sergio Oliva was stuck there I think he was there for like 6 weeks or something.
Yeah, it was a while. And I saw the writing on the wall. I said, at least on that side of the world, China are obviously being affected. Australia's not that far away. So, I mean, if it's going to hit another country hard first, it's going to probably be Australia. And then obviously it came over here. But I think that I saw the writing on the wall there, and I just knew that that show probably wasn't going to happen. If they're already talking about the Arnold US being canceled, there's Australia, and it just, that's one show I would have loved to do. And I think it, would be great. But at the same time, I think, you got to think about, you just got to be smart the way you plan things and the way, what's the curveballs that the world's throwing at us nowadays.
Yeah. So later in the year, was fourth wouldn't have qualified. Fourth at the Arnold did not qualify you for the Arnold.
It gave me a lot of points, but it didn't qualify me. If I wanted to go on points, it probably could have at that point. Did
you ever at any point think about asking for an invitation?
I'm not an invitation kind of guy. Other than the Arnold, I know you have to be an invite, but the Olympia, it's you earn your spot to me, and that's kind of the way I am. I mean, I'd want to earn it,
Yeah. Was it tough for you to sit it out and watch? I don't remember seeing you there, but I missed a lot of people. Were you at the Olympia?
No, I wasn't at the Olympia. No, I was actually in Florida at a different event, but I was not at the Olympia. But definitely watched it. It's obviously the highlight in Super Bowl of what bodybuilding is, and it was great to see the guys that actually stepped up and did the show this year. They looked great. My hats off to everybody. I just was concerned, obviously moving it to Orlando, new platform, a crazy year. Is it going to be an asterisk year? If somebody new won, are they going to say, so-and-so, a bunch of people didn't show? There would have been too many factors to me that would have just, I would have hate to be a guy that placed really well, and then people try to delegitimize your placing just because of them saying, X, Y, and Z wasn't there or whatever. So I was like, you know what, let's ride this year out, give us some time to heal up and move forward.
It turned out, in my mind anyway, that 2019 was the asterisk year.
Yeah.
Because Rami was out that year, Phil was out, Hadi was there. But, so Brandon, a lot of people say, well, you didn't beat Rami, you didn't beat Phil Heath, whatever. But was it tough for you not, because you haven't missed an Olympia in a long time, I don't think, have you?
No, I probably was 6 straight, that I competed in. And so it was a little bit difficult, I mean, you watch that, and I think there's nothing more motivating than going to a big show like Olympia or the Arnold and seeing everybody, and just the fans alone get you motivated. But I thought they did a great job. The Olympia crew pulled it off, looked like an amazing stage. Like I said, the guys looked awesome, every competitor that did it. So it just motivated me more for this year.
Okay. So we know when the show is, we know where it is. It's Florida. Yeah. They can't take it away from us. So no, you can't. It's in there. So we want you. Everyone wants you on that stage this year. You want to be on that stage. Where are you going to qualify? Can you tell us?
Well, the plan this year was going to be do the Arnold, which normally is in March. So that's been pushed out to what I'm hearing September. I hope the show happens. It's kind of a juggling game right now. So I don't want to just say I'm going to commit to that show to qualify at this point. But I'm, looking somewhere around that time. So anywhere from late July, August, September to qualify for the O. Tampa's looking really good. Tampa's looking like a show I would like to jump into. And that would be my qualifier, and just kind of go from there. I know the Chicago's on the radar too. Yeah. I hate to get ready for a show right now, like say in May, and then have to wait another 5 months until September, October to compete. So again, just trying to play it smart. The Indy Pro, it holds a sweet spot in my heart. That's the first show of the year, and I won it 2 years in a row, and this is the third year. So it sucks that it's not around a better time where I'd probably be doing that.
Yeah, the fact that you're not, a couple guys just went like this. Thank God. No offense, because it's funny they're talking about, and I'm not disparaging other people, but I'm just saying, you're at a certain level now. You proved yourself.
Yeah.
So when newer guys like Blessing Awodibu, that's how you say it. This is his first pro show. He's good. Nick Walker, he's only done one pro show. He's good. He's still a little rough around the edges. He's a work in progress. He's going to be very, very good. But they have this rivalry going on, and they're both doing the Indy Pro. I think I know they're doing New York, but I think they're going to do Indy too. But I don't want to say I laugh when all these people don't realize what if Steve Kuclo jumps in, your little rivalry's out the window.
We're talking, Ron.
Steve Kuclo in shape is, come on, guys.
Go.
Don't be ridiculous.
That's
and again,
right.
I'm not
don't count your blessings too early.
And it's not just because I know you and I like you. It's I'm being very objective about physiques. It's like I could hate your guts, and if you had an awesome physique, I'd be like, he's got an awesome physique. He's a horrible human being, but man, what a physique. It's always about physiques with me. It's not
there you go.
There you think I'm a fanboy or a hater, but no.
You're one of the guys that really understand the sport and are real objective because you've been around it for so long, and you know good physiques, when you see one. And I think we all are. I think I could see a guy that's an amateur even at my show and be like, man, that guy's going to be a good pro if he wants. Yeah. So it's just called the eye.
I mean, I've been lucky enough to see some of these guys when they were just starting out in local shows. Justin Rodriguez, remember him? Who he is. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did a tiny little show in Rhode Island a few years back. And I was like, oh my God, he was just, people like that, they stand out. There's so much, it's just a different level from everyone else they're up there with. You're like, this guy's going to be good.
Right.
I remember, the first time I met you, you were like 19 or 20. And you look like a grown ass man already. You were this wide, this tall, but you couldn't get into the clubs in Vegas that we were trying to get into. Remember?
There you go.
We're like, oh, come on, he's with us. They're like, nope.
Yeah.
No ID.
That's
nope.
Funny.
Nope. So let me ask you about the Arnold, because we know there's no date yet, but the Olympia is in October. If they do end up putting on in September, that would be pretty ideal because it's one prep for you, as opposed to, I always thought it was rough for you guys to have to compete at the Arnold where it stands now, where it always was since 1989, because you would have to start your prep in basically start of January, December. Yeah. So you'd be dieting all December, January, February. Shows usually at the very end of February, beginning of March. Then you have now you got 6 months. So what do you do? Now you got to get relaxed. You got to do an off season. You got to try to have some kind of off season. Then you got to go into prep again. I always thought some people didn't seem to affect their physiques, but other people, if they did both shows in the same year, it definitely was detrimental to them. Where do you fall on that? Did you like doing that twice a year, or do you feel like prepping twice a year was rough on your physique?
It was hard. I have to say I took advice from my dad. My dad always said, you got to do the Arnold. And for years, I never did the Arnold because of that. You do the Olympia, you only have maybe a month or two off, and then boom, you're right back into prep. And that's Olympia, we put all our eggs in that basket. It's kind of, you put your body through the gauntlet of the prep. And for me, my dad's like, you got to do the Arnold because all the big boys do that. And if you look historically in the last maybe 6 or 7 years, it just seemed like the guys that placed really well at the Arnold did really well at Olympia. So I was like, okay, that's going to be my game plan from here out. But it did create a long season. You prep from December to March. And then after the Arnold, I would always do the Indy, which kind of took me into early April. And then you'd have maybe a month or two to kind of, I'd say, relax a little bit, maybe take some time off training, rest the body, and then boom, before you know it, okay, I got to get an Olympia prep. So it made just for a really long year. But if the show's in September, it just makes for an ideal situation, because I've always liked to, if I do multiple shows, 1 week's kind of a hard turnaround if you want to make any changes. You really got to, if you nail that show and 1 week later, yeah, you're golden. But if you're like, man, I want to be a little fuller or better shape, however it is, I think you need at least 2 to 3 weeks. 4 weeks is kind of an ideal situation. Yeah. So for me, I think, the Arnold into the O would be just awesome. And I think that would be my ideal situation for this year.
Yeah, I mean, it might, and then that's the way it might turn out. We'll see. They still haven't announced anything. People keep saying it's in September. It's in September. Like, until you see on the Arnold Sports Festival website, this is the date. Shut up. You don't know nothing.
No kidding.
I try not to do that, but I think that would be better for guys like you in the show. But I think having those shows sort of back to back, maybe a month apart, I think for the industry, for the sport, it wouldn't be so good, because since 1989, we've had this thing. We know, okay, at the very end of the winter, we're going to have the Arnold Classic in Columbus, Ohio. And it's sort of set up the whole year, because whoever won that was usually a favorite going into the Olympia. It certainly gave him a lot of clout. Like Brandon won that, and then he won the Olympia. Bonac took second.
Sure.
It's just, now we have to wait until, this year, the first pro show isn't Indy Pro, May 8th. So we have nothing. Yeah. That whole chunk of time between the Olympia, which was December, like 6 months of no shows going on. That's rough.
Right.
Yeah. And let's be real, for like exhibit and the expos too.
Yeah.
If I have a company and I'm going to spend I don't know, let's say like $100,000 on this awesome booth, do I want to spend another $100,000 a month later at another expo?
I know. And with not even knowing how good expos are going to be, are they going to be limited to people? Are they going to be, I mean, there's a lot of what ifs, when it comes to the expos and understanding, business and spending money and for shows and stuff like that. It's really, there's a lot of question marks, and I don't admire being in the situation for anybody that has to think about, okay, how am I going to promote my business? I'm used to doing these trade shows. I spend 50 or 100 grand a year into doing this stuff. But, if I don't do it, is it going to be, and if it's a successful expo, or am I going to lose money? I mean, it's a tough situation we're all in. So I think you just got to play it smart,
Well, as soon as we all get that vaccine and the chip in our skull, I think
that ain't happening. Yeah, hey, I put it this way, and I made a video about it. I had COVID right around Christmas, and so I'm a walking antibody right now. And no, but for me, it was no more than a cold. I think the weirdest part of the whole thing is losing taste and smell. I had for about a week, about a little over 2 weeks, which was kind of weird, but it felt like just a sinus infection. I get one of those every year, it seems like. And the flu seems a lot worse. And I just made sure I took my vitamins, tried to, eat properly, got rest, treated the symptoms. If I was feeling achy or whatever, I took some Tylenol, and actually have a doctor friend of mine wrote me a prescription for hydroxychloroquine. And as soon as I started feeling symptomatic, I started taking that. And I'd say within really 2 to 3 days, I felt like I was 100%. Wow. But, I wrote it out, gave some time to rest up. And my wife, obviously, she got it right after I did, a couple of days. So we just, we spent Christmas in the house, and it was kind of nice just to chill. But at the same time, by no means do I think it's a death sentence, especially if you're not 90 and really sick. So
you look pretty lively to me. I'm just curious, when you can't smell or taste the food, were you able to get the food down like in the normal quantities, or were you just not? You still had hunger?
A little bit, because I know my body was saying I'm kind of hungry, but the first couple of days I was like, man, I could go all day without eating or drinking. I mean, you do, but just out of habit, knowing, okay, I got to eat every couple hours, and you're just like, I'm going to eat something. But I knew it was kind of weird when I was like, man, I don't really taste much. So I took a shot of Crown Royal. I poured a little glass. I'm like, I'm going to see because normally you take a shot of warm Crown Royal, you're going to be like, damn, that's nasty. So I took a shot, and I mean, it tastes like water. And I was like, oh, that's not good. So at that point, but what things taste like. So I'd I made a steak, and I'd cut it up, and I'd put it in my mouth and eat it. And I'm like, man, my brain's not computing the no taste, but I know what it tastes like. So it was a little weird, and I could see how that would affect an older person. I think that's one of the things that may affect people, because if somebody's elderly, they're not eating very much as it is normally, their appetite's not real big, and then they lose taste altogether, and they, I mean, you just feel like you're not really that hungry, and you can go days without eating. And if you're fighting a virus, your body's trying to heal up and defend, you know, your immune system is trying to defend itself. It definitely, that's probably one of the main contributors, in my opinion, that probably affect people a lot, is just not having the nutrition to, you know, have your body heal up.
You know, that's why I think, I don't want to make this blanket statement, because obviously my medical training is, I don't have any medical training, but I do believe that the way I don't think bodybuilders are necessarily the healthiest athletes in the world, but
not all of them.
No, but you know, we eat very clean. We do cardio. If anyone's watched us, you don't do cardio, you're a lazy ass. But you know, I think we do a lot of things that help us fight any kind of infection, even COVID. So yeah, like you said, you felt it like a cold, and if it hadn't been for the loss of taste or smell, you probably never would have even known you had it, right?
No, absolutely not. You know, that to me was the only telltale sign that I had, you know, what would be COVID. But yeah, so I mean, I've been. We were in Mexico about a week and a half ago, and we had to get tested to get back to the U.S. and you know, it was negative, and you know, but I don't have that fear of, oh gosh, I'm going to get tested, I'm going to have a false positive or whatever. Like, I feel like I had it, I got the antibodies, I'm, you know, let's rock and roll.
Well, we're glad to hear you're okay. Yeah. I mean, I don't know when the end is in sight, but it can't be that much longer. I feel like it's going to go until the fall, until everything sort of starts rotating back to normal. That's just my gut, but I hope it's sooner than that. But yeah, I don't know. The way things have been going so slow thus far, I don't want to be overzealous with my predictions.
Sure. You're good at your predictions though, Ron. You don't get too far off from bodybuilding to, I'm going to hopefully life predictions.
New York Pro winner. Who you got?
I don't know the full lineup yet. I mean, I know, like you said, there's Walker and Blessing are doing it.
Justin, you know who my pick? I'm going to get so much shit for it. Anytime I pick someone, anytime I pick one person, I was like, what, you idiot?
Yeah.
Hassan Mustafa. He's from Egypt. He's now in Vegas training with Flex Lewis all the way up to the show.
Okay.
And he looked, I think you've competed against him, I think, Hassan.
Yeah. He's one of those guys that, you know, you kind of, when he's on stage, he's got real powerful body parts, and I think that could carry him. His physique flows really well. I think Justin really brought it last year. I think last year was his biggest improvement. And in my opinion, I think if he shows up what he did last year, I think he could be a real threat to win the show. Yeah, especially being a, you know, New York guy himself, kind of, and I think he's got a lot of potential to shake it up a little bit.
I would have picked him, but that's too easy.
Yeah.
Because he was damn near close. He almost beat Ian at the Tampa Pro. Was it Tampa?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or New York? Because they were both in Tampa.
God. No, it was New York. They were New York. It was New York. Yeah. Yeah,
they were both in Tampa, but it was at that. And then there was another show. He almost won it. It was so close. It went crazy with the posing. I can't remember who it was. Weinberger like almost killed him and this other guy. It just went not
too well.
Same poses over and over and over and over. I'm like, oh my God. Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, so we're looking at Tampa. Have you ever done Tampa Pro?
No, first would be my first.
Okay.
So yeah, I got to play strategy here, you know, what time frames and whatnot. So I know as the shows go along, you know, they're just going to get to me harder and harder. It'll be more stacked. But I feel like I'm confident enough in my physique now and where I'm at. Like you said, you know, I've kind of figured out the equation over the last few years that when I decide to do a show, it's going to be, you know, I feel like it's my show to lose if I want. So I got to focus on just what I have to do, and I'll go in there with a W.
So that will be about a year and a half since your last contest.
Yeah.
By the time you get there, is that the longest as a pro you've gone without competing?
Yeah, I think it has. You know, this is obviously not by choice, but the way things are kind of laying out. But I used it this time, I think, wisely. I in November, I had some stem cell procedure done on my back and shoulders and knees. So to me, I was like, you know, I'll use this time, heal up. I've really noticed improvement in my back so far. My knees feel really good. Shoulders feel good. So I'm just gonna, continue to train smart. At this point, it's about longevity and just, not getting hurt and doing all the things I can to stay healthy.
Thank you, because I was gonna, it totally had escaped my mind, but I knew you had that done. And
Yeah.
if you hadn't said that, we would have gone this whole interview.
You
People would
would
have
have
been
been
like,
like,
why didn't you ask him about the stem cells, you idiot?
yeah.
So thank you, Steve. Thank you. You just saved my
Yeah.
ass right there. So this will be
There
our
you go.
final topic. Shoulder, you had it in the back, and where, the shoulder?
Yeah, I actually had it I pretty much like Iron Man at that point, because I wanted them in my back and my shoulder, because that's where I had the most. My right shoulder's been having a little bit of some pain from a minor tear I have, I guess. Just I'm sure if you MRI all our shoulders, they would look pretty nasty just from the amount of training we've done. But I went in and good friends with the doctor, Dr. East over at Addison Pain here in Dallas. And so I wanted my lower back was always getting tight just from years of heavy squats and training. My disc space was kind of degenerating over time. And so we kind of game planned and said, let's do bone marrow stem cell. And with that, they take it out of your hip bone. They extract about 30 cc's of legitimate stem cell bone marrow. And he said, we can do those 2 spots, but you're going to have stuff you're going to have left over. Where else would you want it? I was like, well, do the other shoulder. And then while you're at it, do the knees. So, and he ended up doing my bicep tendon as well, both sides. So he injected all that area. The back was rough. I mean, when you're talking about putting a fluid into your disc space, that's about the viscosity of like oil. And that it took me about 2 days to really get functioning and moving again, because it felt like I hit by a car. Wow. Other than that, it was great. I'm really feeling results now, being about 4 months after the procedure. I'm starting to see the benefits. My back feels the best it's felt in probably since I was in my early 20s.
Wow.
I feel like I got more cushion there, which normally if I squatted heavy, I would, about the day after, I'd feel like, man, it felt like my spine was like just locked up, and now I feel like, okay, I got some cushion there. The shoulder, which is a lot of tissue, is starting to feel the benefits. The pain that I've been kind of dealing with is going away. Knees feel really good. So I'm excited about, these results, and we're just going to, kind of go into prep feeling a lot fresher and kind of rejuvenated.
Yeah. You just educated me on stem cells. I had this, again, I'm a medical moron. I thought it was like 3-day-old fetus or something that
they do have the umbilical stem cells, but the way Dr. East, explained it to me, he feels like, if you're getting the fresh stem cell right out of your body, which, you're less likely to be rejected. If you get some stem cells it may seem foreign to your body, it can be like, they may be rejected. So the way he explained it, doing your own and doing right then and there is I could tell you this as a confessionary story. My dad had them done on his knees. Absolutely zero cartilage, bone on bone, a lot of pain. I mean, he couldn't walk downstairs without being in pain. He got him done, and a year later, I mean, he's walking, doing golfing, bowling, no issues, no pain. So, I mean, he's a testimony right there that I believe he believes that it works, being a 64-year-old guy. And I think, anybody that's having a lot of pain is definitely an option instead of surgery to get something like that done.
You just had one treatment, or do you have to have it done again? Or
I had just one treatment. Now Dr. East always said it's kind of like fertilizing grass. If you want to do it again to kind of make everything even a little bit better, we can do it. But the way I feel right now, I think I would say I'm pretty good, but not saying I wouldn't do it another year or two, just to kind of get a re-up and see if we can make it better.
Yeah, I wonder why Flex Lewis had to go all the way to Colombia to do his.
I'm not sure, man. Maybe they got some special cocktail down there that.
But I know. Don't worry.
I know a lot of doctors. I always say there's a difference of doing it and then knowing how to do it. And I think Dr. Reese is one of the guys that's kind of at the cutting edge. The understanding of how to do it and the way, I know, like, he can't even really promote, like he's told me, like, I can't promote stuff on Google because Google will block me if I talk about these stem cells. So
really?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I mean, they obviously work, they help people. So, they want people to get cut on and take a bunch of pills, and I'm not about that.
I'm glad to hear that it's working. You're feeling better, because I know it's not cheap, so it better be worth the money. It sounds like for somebody that makes their living off their physique,
Yeah.
for the most part, it's a worthy investment. I'm glad it's
Absolutely.
panning out. Because in my mind, I don't know, does this stuff even work? I'm thinking, or is this just like people think it works? It doesn't really work. You know?
Yeah, I would just say, vet the people that either the doctor that's doing it, kind of see if you got any referrals or people that have had some legit testimony. And he was one of the guys that come highly recommended from all people flying from all around the world, and anybody I've even sent to him, he's really helped. So it's definitely something worth looking into.
Well, guys, you can go to www.stevekuclo.com if you want to get some merchandise and stuff, and
yeah,
you can probably get the doctor contact off him there if you're a good boy or girl.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with social media now, it feels like people have access to people a lot easier. So
yeah, we're old school. You still got a website. Yeah.
I prefer the old school ways. I felt like we never took our phones in the gym. Maybe with every time, maybe MD would come and film. That's the only time I would ever film a workout. But it's different times we're in, and I think there's positive and negatives to both. But
there's a good chunk of people at my gym. It's a big gym. They film at least 2 or 3 sets per workout. Some of them film every set. I'm like, where's this all going?
Who's watching this? Why?
Then I go to their Instagram just out of curiosity, and there's the stories. It's like it'll be like 2 bars if there's like 2 stories, and it'll be if they have a ton of stories, it's like and I'm like, well, there you go. They got like 100 stories up.
Passing over that, yeah, right.
Well, guys, if you spend your workouts on your phone and filming yourself, you're probably never going to look like Steve Kuclo. So cut it out. Anyway, cool. Steve, thank you so much for taking the time. So again, the contests are Steve Kuclo Classics, May 8th in Michigan. The big one, May 29th in Dallas. Full capacity seating, no masks.
No masks. We did it last year, no masks, and people loved it. I didn't require it. That's one of my things. I went to the hotel. I said, you know what? I said, I'm not requiring masks. They're like, that's fine. Whatever you want to do. And I said, I guess the dollar speaks.
I mean, nobody likes these. Nobody likes masks except people with real ugly, jacked up teeth. They're like, please, let's keep these masks forever. Oh, people with big noses and jacked up teeth, because this is all you're seeing, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, cool, man. All right. Thank you so much for taking the time, Steve. It's
always a pleasure.
Great catching up. And that's it. Everybody, thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, do all that stuff, please. We appreciate you watching. We'll see you next time.